Good morning, everyone. My name is Joshua Pinaneri, and today I am presenting my research on a topic I think every person who is in college can relate to, and that is sleep quality and its impact on academic performance. So, does resting lead to success? This is for my Sociology 355 course, Quantitative Methods and Social Research. We've all heard of the stereotype of the tired college student. In fact, according to the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, roughly 70% of students don't get enough sleep. But for many of us at California State University, Long Beach, this isn't just about poor time management or staying up too late scrolling on our phones. As a student myself, balancing academics with other responsibilities, I've observed a trend. Burnout is often treated as part of the deal or a fair trade in the college system. In my introduction, I argue that this normalization of exhaustion ignores the physical and mental capabilities of students. Furthermore, I hypothesize that at a commuter-heavy school like California State University, Long Beach, sleep disparities actually reflect deeper social inequalities, like the need to work multiple jobs and long commute times and even longer parking times. My study seeks to answer one primary question. How does this actual amount of sleep a student gets relate to their focus and performance in the classroom? Before diving in my own data, I looked at existing sociological and biological research. The literature generally falls into three themes. The first one would be consistency. Researchers like Okano found that it's not just the total hours that matter, but the regularity of your sleep schedule. Second, cognitive function. Curcio explains that sleep loss affects the prefrontal cortex. This is our control center for problem solving. When we lack sleep, we just don't feel tired. Our brains literally struggle to store memories that we can remember in the long run. Lastly, would be the systemic barriers by the institutions we live in. This is where the sociology part comes in. Zeke and Parksarian point out that for many, sleep loss is a systemic issue. Students in low-income areas or those with heavy commutes face environmental barriers to rest. This leads to what Hirschner and Shervin call the vicious cycle. You stay up late to finish work because you're too tired, focused during the day, which makes you even more tired the next day. My research aims to see if this cycle holds true, specifically for our Long Beach Community College, for our Long Beach community. For my methodology, I conducted a cross-sectional survey focusing on undergraduate students at California State University, Long Beach. I used convenience sampling via digital outreach. My sample consisted of 16 students. I only had 16 respondents, and majority of them were juniors and seniors. A very important demographic detail emerged immediately, which was 100% of my respondents were actual commuters, and 73% of my respondents identified as Hispanic or Latino. Also, 90% of these students were working a paid job, with half of them working more than 21 hours per week. My independent variable was sleep duration, the actual hours of rest. My dependent variable was academic success, which I looked at as a composite of cumulative GPA and had a 5-point scale measuring mental alertness and satisfaction. To ensure my survey was reliable, I checked the consistency of my focus related questions, which showed a strong internal reliability. While the sample size was kind of small, it provides a very concentrated look at the worker and commuter experience that defines much of the California State University um, students. I also wanted to test the impact of work and scheduling. As I mentioned, half of my sample works over 21 hours a week. There was a clear correlation between these high work hours and a lack of control. 50% of students reported feeling unable to control the important things in their life, half the time or most of the time, due to their hectic schedules. We also see the all-nighter culture in full effect. Half of the students, including myself, pull at least one or more all-nighters per semester. And 20% responded that one in five are pulling six or more. This confirms that for the working commuters, sleep is often the first thing sacrificed to meet academic and financial demands. Now let's look at what the data was telling us. Despite the biological recommendation of 8 hours of sleep, the participants responded with about 6.1 hours on average. Even more telling was the qualitative self-rating. 90% of my respondents rated their sleep quality as either fair or poor. Only one person in the entire study felt they had very good sleep. When looking at the relationship between sleep and grades, the average GPA remained relatively high at 3.26. This suggests that California State University Long Beach students are incredibly resilient. They are performing well academically despite being very exhausted. However, we look at academic readiness, the numbers kind of drop. On a 5-point scale, the mean for feeling mentally alert during morning lectures was only 2.78. Essentially, students are getting the grades, but we are also very tired and mentally drained while doing it. So, what does this all mean? The data confirms that for California State University Long Beach, the commuters do play a big part and are participating in the vicious cycle, and it's a very real reality. The impact of commuting is quite harsh. The distance and the traffic in the morning is very hard. Me being a commuter myself, I know all about that. And to find parking once you're on campus is also very, very hard. So, of course, there are limitations. With a sample of 16, we can't generalize this to the whole country, but we can use it as a idea for our campus. My conclusion is that universities need to recognize these systemic barriers. If 100% of our sample are commuters and 90% are working, maybe we do need to look at more flexible scheduling or more asynchronous options to prevent this cycle of exhaustion. Future research should expand this to compare the students living on the dorm or closer to campus and the commuters who drive further, just to prove how living situations might impact the right to rest and how that might also play a role in academic performance. Thank you for your time. This final slide contains the peer-reviewed sources that informed my research. Thank you. Have a good day.